I hear on a regular basis. I have work hard tattooed on my forearm for a reason. A, it's a family mantra, and B, nothing that I have come from working smart. Nothing. It all comes from working hard. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Wrench Turners podcast, the show that's about improving the life, well-being, and productivity of mechanics everywhere. I'm your host, Mr. Joshua Taylor, founder and CEO of WrenchTurners.online and business development at FixedOPS Marketing. On today's show, we have a very young individual. We haven't had someone like this on the show thus far. We've had mechanics, service leaders, vendors. We've had all kinds of people on the show in the last year. We now have an apprentice mechanic on our show, Aidan Burns, works for Go Right Fleet Solutions. On today's episode, we talk about getting a break in the industry, real dads making great foremen, and more importantly, being thankful. Let's get into it.
Good.
So Aidan, tell us how you got into automotive.
So kind of just through my upbringing, I'd grown up around it a lot, obviously, and being, I guess, a 2000s baby. I guess for a lot of the older guys, they've kind of seen a bit of a transfer over, and I think I've gotten a bit of the old school side of things and the new school side of things, and for some reason, just old stuff really caught my eye, right? And it found a place in my heart. And just throughout that, from young, I think I've developed kind of this fire in myself and a desire to fix and learn different kinds of systems and stuff like that. And I know it sounds a little corny, but it's genuinely how I feel about it, right? So it's really just been chasing a dream in a sense.
Don't feel corny about it, because many of us got into this trade for the same reason. And for some, it might be 5 years ago. For some, it might be almost 50 years ago. It doesn't matter in between. If there's a fire in your soul to fix stuff, to learn about stuff, everything car related or motorcycle related or boat related, if you enjoy fixing things and you find a thing to fix, and this is where the mechanic part comes in. The mechanic in your blood, in your soul, as it were, it doesn't matter what it is that you're fixing, right? It's the thing that you're fixing. It's like you really enjoy the challenge, or you really enjoy the outcome of the fixing. So don't undervalue that, because that is going to help carry you through, especially when it gets really, really tough. You've probably experienced some pretty tough things already, but you get 10, 15 years in and you start looking at things a little differently. Families come around, all of the different social and personal aspects outside of your professional life occur in a big way, and you're looking at work in a different light. I know there's a lot of mechanics out there that would share this thought process with me, 15, 20 years in. And some things become very monotonous and boring. Some of the stuff that you will find right now, so very young in your career, learning about, that you're just learning about and getting your hands dirty on, we've done probably 100, 200, 500 times already. And it's just like, bored. So it's that fire that carries you through so that you can keep doing it.
That's something that's definitely scared me, is like seeing it obviously being generations down of heavy duty mechanics. Like I've definitely seen some things that have worried me, and like just my father and my grandfather, and it kind of seems to a point that they get to a wall, and I think that passion kind of is something that I've continuously chased, and just finding new ways to make it fun, and whether it be learning how to do it the same process a different way or different strategies. How can I make it quicker? Challenging myself day in, day out, just to be a little bit better, right? So
awesome. What's your, you had family that kind of helped you help ignite the fire. You found the old stuff to help you get in. What's your first? You're if now correct me if I'm wrong. You're a year into this, not quite two.
So in terms of experience, like I've been pulling wrenches for a while. In terms of paperwork, like I definitely have had some issues, and I, if I recall correct, we'll get into that down the line, right? So, um, there's been some issues getting paperwork side of things figured out, and just actually getting my apprenticeship signed and whatnot. But I have been pulling wrenches for I'd say about 2.5 years now. So.
Okay. So what's that? Walk us through that journey because there's some folks out there that have been away from your position for a very long time that don't necessarily understand what the young apprentice, young mechanic is going through today. Can you walk us through that last 2.5 years?
Yeah, so like a big thing into my entrance into the trades is I'm kind of I feel like I fall into a weird crossover year where everything started to really change and we've fallen into a deficit and people that are willing to work and that want to be there, right? So a big thing for me when I first started was finding somebody that was willing to give me an opportunity or let my hands get a little dirty, and whether it be doing oil changes, take some wheels off, whatnot. Um, that was a big part of the beginning, and I found in myself, and I this was one of my own issues, is that I would lose this sense of commitment and like determination to continue to chase what I want to be doing, just because I felt like I wasn't given that opportunity. I'd be told right from hiring that it was okay, so 6 months, let's see how you do, let's reevaluate. And then with that commitment throughout that 6 months and really giving my all, it felt towards the end that I'd really fallen on my face. And it felt like definitely a revolving cycle of doors for the first, I'd say, 6 to 8 months. I just really wasn't getting anywhere. Come up until it would have been last winter, sorry, winter of 2022 sometime, that I was really given an opportunity and I started working on trailers. I was doing a lot of air brake stuff, participating in repairs for like commercial vehicle inspections and stuff like that. Really getting down into it and whatnot. And the big deal breaker for me at that point is I felt I wasn't getting paid for the work that I was putting out. I was a single employee in this shop. I didn't really have any backing from what was my foreman. It was a bit of a startup shop, and he had come from a pretty reputable trailer shop within the city that I'm from here. Um, and it was a big thing for me to just not really be getting valued in that sense. And again, tying back into my issues with commitment, I kind of started to flip flop around, and it started to get hard. Obviously, being a young apprentice, just even a young kid at that, trying to find somewhere really solid, right? Um, and then I'd come upon this shop that I was actually given the opportunity to be working on trucks. It wasn't really just trailers, which for some may know is quite limited. Like you can only really go so far with it, right? Like the education side of things is very limited. The work, again, tying into that, it becomes very monotonous, and especially in a short period of time. Um, so I'd started to work on trucks, and throughout the beginning, it was a bit of a rough startup. Like even just myself, I was at a rough point in my life, um, and just really striving through that and staying committed and getting over my issues with committing and really feeling a sense of value within my work. Um, and it started to work for me, which was obviously being young, not really given that opportunity for a while and battling to find that. It was obviously very, very rewarding, right? So I'd gotten through about 4 to 6 months, and I had established a relationship with who is now my journeyman today. And he really pushed me to my limits in terms of work, like in the best way possible. Really challenging my mind, my physical side of things, and just really seeing what I'm capable of and seeing what I like doing. Um, Together, we found I was really into the suspension side of things, engine work, stuff like that. And again, I'm wearing a cat hoodie now, and I think that speaks for itself. Like I'm really big into the cat stuff, so that's always kind of been my niche. And I know, being young, it's definitely a weird thing to say that I feel like I found my path in terms of what I want to be working on, but it something inside of me finds its way out, um, and just, I guess, in a sense, I like a natural aptitude for these systems, right? And just the way they've designed things, it works in my head, right? So that's kind of been the battle for the last little bit, right? It's just finding that spot, and I found my groove, found my journeyman, and since then it's been a big backing for me is having an older, I guess, in a sense, I'd say a veteran, having my back, right, and really teaching me, having access to those tools that really push me forward as an apprentice.
I think that's awesome. I think whilst you had the first year and a half to 2 years where you struggled to find an environment fit, you struggled to find a leadership fit, you struggled to find a financial fit, and then you found somebody and some place and some money all in one wheelhouse. And whilst I wouldn't say that my first shop was financially fit, I would say the environment fit and the leadership fit I found in my first shop, and I'm thankful I didn't have to go through two solid years like you did to try and find that. I'm not sure I would have had. I can almost guarantee you that I would not have had the mental fortitude at that time in my life similar to yours. It wouldn't have. I can tell you almost beyond the shadow of a doubt that 18, 19, 20, if I had to go through that with the way I was acting, the way I was behaving, the way I was being, it wouldn't have happened. I dropped away from working full time at the grocery store. I was making 50 grand a year, give or take, and this is like 20 plus years ago. I don't remember what it was even was now. It's like 2001, 2000. I was like at 50 grand a year at like 19 because I was working stupid hours. I was managing a department. I was responsible for all of these things. I was making overtime because of the way that the pay scales worked. I was making stupid money. I was working stupid hours, and I dropped out of there so that I could go work at the shop. And I went from like 50 grand a year, quote, 50 grand a year paychecks to $9 an hour paychecks. And if I didn't have a similar leader like you're describing, my very first foreman, there's no way. There's no way that 2 years would have happened. I'm very, very proud of you for doing that. That is bloody amazing. And the fact that you've got the mental fortitude to get to that point now on your own without having that is going to help you appreciate how valuable that leader now is and the things that they can teach you. And going forward, the fact that you have your own push, your own drive to learn, and you found something you enjoy doing and enjoy challenging yourself doing is an asset that so many that I have talked to in even in the last year and a half don't have. Just don't have. And I'm happy. I am so very happy that we have found another individual, a young individual, a young apprentice in our trade that is willing to put in the work, to put in the time, to put in the effort and the drive to be able to do all the things that we need you to do because you become the next leader. And I think I said this on LinkedIn a little while back, and I'll say it live here now. You're not a leader until you've produced a leader that can produce a leader. So what we're talking about here is you found a leader who's going to teach you to be a leader, and they've become a leader themselves when they've taught you how to teach somebody else to be a leader. So you are that generation in between, and hopefully, and I would assume that your foreman is in that position where they're now the teacher being they're now the student. They've turned from student to being the teacher and so forth. They're probably a second generation and you're the third. So that's really awesome to hear as well.
Yeah, and like that's been a big thing that I've definitely struggled with is noticing the fact that for my age, I have found a good sense of stability within myself. And people are constantly reminding me, like, you're so mature for your age. You're only 19 years old. You come from a very strange generation where technology developed this and that. And it's been something I've definitely overlooked. And that's what I think I'm definitely thankful for the fact that my journeyman now, he's 48 years old, and everybody says you two are like we're very tight, right? Like we talk after work, during work, no matter what it be, right? So and like
Peas
that's
in
a
a
big
pod.
thing that yeah, that's a big thing that I've noticed is that if there's a big difference between a leader and a supervisor, and he's been a leader and he's taught me and he's in a sense nurtured me as a young adult, I guess I'll say, and in I mean might be a stretch, but I guess in a fatherly figure is what how I pinpoint it, right? Like he's just whatever it is, he says he's there for me, right? He's there to whatever the issue is, he's got some kind of solution.
And I keep saying it. I've said it over and over, and I realize I've been super lucky, but the best foremen are dads. And the
Yeah.
reason being is your foreman is not just somebody you go to when you have a challenging vehicle or a challenging problem that you're working through. They're also the person that you can go to in confidence and talk to about anything, because if your production is down because you feel like absolute ass, you stupidly were out Sunday night drinking and you come in the morning hung over as shit, and you tell them, it's like, I'm here. I'm not really here, but I'm here. And they're going to give you shit up one side and up the other, and they're going to kick your ass all day to make sure you get the work done. And at the end of the day, give you 2 glasses of water and 2 Advil and say, go home and sleep it off. And tomorrow, it's just like any other day. And they're not going to hold it against you. They're not going to resent you. They're not going to treat you like shit. They're going to kick your ass through the day so you get the day done. That is a foreman. A foreman is somebody you can go to with any problem, and they're as close to, the person who's going to help you bury the body as they are anything else. And even though they need to act in a certain way and say certain things and hold certain things back, like I've talked, like Richard Mueller and I and the boys on 10 mil talk about regular, there's a line between what you can and can't say as a foreman. There's a line between what you can and can't say to a foreman. At some stage, that line becomes very, very blurry because of the relationship that you build over a longer period of time. And similar to circumstances like Stefan regularly occurs, like there's a point where apprentices become technicians, technicians become foremen become service managers, service manager becomes fixed op directors, and that's Zach Perkle. He's in a position now where he's leading a team of people where, for the most part, he was an apprentice with many of the technicians that are still on the floor, and he's now leading them. And the business has gone from $500,000 a month to, like, I believe the last month was like $1.5 million or awfully close to $1.5 million a month in the same business, and he's leading it. Those kind of transitions in position over time, over a long enough time frame, when you're learning from a great leader, a high value leader like that, you're learning where your lines are, you're learning where your boundaries are, but the relationship remains. And they will still hold you accountable for the shit that you do when it's a bad, and they will hold you accountable and reward you for the shit that's good. And only great foremen can do that. And I'm
Yes,
so I'm so happy you found that.
that's been a good thing for me as well. Is like continuously pushing the bar on those rough days and being that person there in his position, being quite an older guy and having back issues and whatnot. And he will essentially pick me up by the scruff of my neck, off my ass, and say, "We're doing this. You're not getting out. You're stuck with me now." And it's funny because people around, his big thing is just reminding people how hard he pushes me. Like, I mean, whether it be relational, family, whatnot, and just if I'm tired at the end of the day and I come home and I can't get off the couch, it's known, people around me know how he puts things out, right? And that whether it be a massive brake job, it's like it's getting done there fast, proper, and there's no in between with that. He is that kind of guy where it's essentially fuck your excuses, let's get this done.
Oh my god, I need to meet this man.
Oh, he's definitely a bit of
Because
a curveball.
it sounds like he's also the individual that's going to kick your ass all day, but he's also the same dude that when you get it done after kicking your ass all day, it's like, good job.
Yeah.
Like, that was hard work and we pushed. We got it done. Good job.
Yeah, and he was like, I mean, without saying too much for now, I don't really have a father figure around. And like when it came down to going from your startup toolbox to where I'm at now with this Matco toolbox, and I've completely invested into like my career, and I'm ready to be in this. He was the first person that I walked up to, and I was like, I did it. And he sat there and he was like, I'm proud of you. Good job. Like, this is, you've signed your ticket. You're here. You're ready to do this. And like that was a big thing for me, and it completely, I was essentially stuck to his ass at that point because I'm like, okay, he's here, he's supporting me in any which sense, whether it be desires as an apprentice, whether it be what do I want to learn, what do I want to do, how much do I want to work, and just in every aspect of life he was there, right? So that's kind of been my thing with him for the last couple months. Like, even just yesterday I went a province over to pick up a classic truck with him, and that's, for a lot of people, it's like, he's 48 years old and you're 19. Like, why is
Doesn't
that?
matter. Doesn't matter.
And that's the thing. It's that journeyman apprentice relationship that we've built, right? And we have that friendship and that bond that it's like, hey, you want to come pick up a truck with me and help me? Let's figure it out on the way, right? And I'm the person he wants there over anybody else, and that's definitely it's been a rewarding thing, to say the least.
Awesome. So that kind of leads into to our question, the kind of the most important question that we're trying to help other technicians and other service leaders out. You kind of describe, I would say you described it just there, but maybe you've got something else. What's your piece of advice for a mechanic, a technician out there, a service leader to help other mechanics and technicians be happy?
I definitely say from the starting end, kind of being in the position that I'm in, is know your place, but also know your value. There's a very fine line with that. And right now, us as mechanics and tradespeople, we are so valuable. If you're willing to go in the door, learn, have open ears, and work hard, that will completely manipulate between the beginning of your career and then getting to the point where I'm at as an apprentice now, a signed apprentice, solidly locked in. It's definitely made some hard choices for me, but it's also put me in the right direction between being treated like a piece of scum to management and, not being respected when I say, hey, I don't feel comfortable putting out this work unless I go the extra mile with it. And that's a big thing, is finding people that are willing to back you with your choices and what you want to be as a mechanic or an apprentice or wherever you lie within the mechanical trades, right? So um, that was definitely a very hard lesson for me, but I think it was a quick one, and it's manipulated a lot for me in positive and negative ways.
Awesome. I like that little tidbit. I like that little tidbit in there. That's nice. There's a lot of people that need to hear that and understand that this overarching the next generation doesn't want to work as a crock of shit. It's a complete crock of shit. And I've been talking about it for a while that it has nothing to do with whether you guys want to work or not. It's the fact that you have options, and we need to be thankful that for those of you that have chosen to be in the trade, that want to work and want to put it in and want to do better for themselves, aren't willing to put up with bullshit. And I think that summed up very well. There's someone very smart, someone significantly smarter than I, summed up the last three major generations. And we're not talking about boomer, but we're talking about, you go from industrial revolution to the information revolution to 2023. The options now for you folks at your age are so much more. And I don't know how to eloquently put this, but as a 19-year-old man without a university degree, there was a lot for me to be able to do. But as a 19-year-old man, you are as of today, without a university degree, there's probably 10x the amount of things that you can do. You can go on YouTube and you can spend 90 days, 16 hours a day learning to code. And then you know how to code. And then learning, business savvy based on, Grant Cardone. You can talk about Brad Lee, and you can learn some basic business savvy over another 90 days because you can stay at home, learn all of these things, learn to code, learn to sell yourself. And there are all kinds of folks your age learning, making a decent living from home, from YouTube. Like, the options there. So as an industry that requires everyone to go to work, it's not an office. We need to go to the shop and fix stuff, or we need to get in our service truck and go and fix stuff. It's one or the other. There is no working at home in an office to fix things. You have to go somewhere to fix where the stuff is at, or go to a shop where stuff comes to you. Either way, it's not in your home office like I'm sitting in. And we need to be thankful that there is even people that want to do it, because it's hard, bloody work. And the only ones that stay in this business, especially at your age and around your age, you got to love it, right? You got to have a passion for it, even an inkling of a passion of doing it. So we got to be thankful that you even want to do it.
Yes, and
So appreciate
I
that.
I think there definitely is a fine line between people my age who want to work and others who really just want to be living off the golden platter, right? And so I agree with you. I think to say as a whole for my generation is, oh, none of them want to work, right? That's a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, I think a lot of them recognize there's opportunities to live an abundant life that their parents didn't have or that their grandparents didn't have, and like to have this knowledge would be a big thing for a lot of people, and to know that, and if you can go 10 different directions, and one of which is your primary income source, and that's your passion, that's what you want to invest your time in, and then like you're saying, to have these backdoor things like doing YouTube or whatever it be, coding, stuff like that. That's, I think we're definitely, just even as a whole for society, we're so lucky to be like able to access knowledge like that, and it just comes down to the person who wants to work with it, right? So
I think I think you don't have to even be even more specific. You can be just as broad, and it just comes down to the person. It's not a generation. It's not generational thing anymore. I think it comes down to the fact that each individual person has the option to do what they want to do, and those who want to work, irrespective of what it is, those who want to work want to find what they want to do, and they will work doing that. And outside of that, and that group of people is actually quite large, but because there's so many options, they're changing what the option is. They're taking each and every opportunity, and they're not sticking it out for 5 to 10 years to see if it's for them. It's like 5 to 10 weeks or maybe 5 to 10 months. It's like, nope, this isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. And that's, I think, in this culture, in this day and age, in this opportunity, this big pool of opportunity that there is, I think it's the smartest thing to do. Find what you want to do for the rest of your life, because, like, I'm almost 40. I still got a long way to go, and I've changed a whole bunch of things a whole long way. I've stayed around automotive for the last 20 plus years, but I've done a whole lot of different stuff around along the way. I've had a whole lot of opportunities that have come from doing a little bits and this and that around automotive. So I understand that portion of things, and I'm happy that you brought it up.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing too. Is like, I mean, again, tying into opportunity is, even if you find your kind of your line, there's you can drift either which way. If you For automotive mechanics, you can do detailing, you can do upholstery, you can do sound systems, this, that. Like, there's so many different ways you can go within automotive. In terms of equipment, you can operate, you can repair, you can, like, it's a never ending scroll of possibilities, right? And then, I mean, at the end of the day, too, like, it could become overwhelming for a lot of people, where they're like, which, I mean, could lead back to why so many people today are like, I don't know what I want to do, is because there is so many different directions you can go. It, like, there could be a certainty with kind of your basis of a career or basis of a passion, and then you just really don't know which direction you want to go with it, right?
I very much agree. Decision fatigue is a thing for a reason. Not having so many options in itself causes many anxiety. Just the fact that there's that many options, and anybody that's susceptible to the adverse effects of anxiety will shut down when there's so many options. So instead of choosing something, they'll choose to do nothing, which is an option. It's not a very good option for anyone, including themselves, but it's an option. And then, unfortunately, many of those things lead to depression. They lead to high stress. They lead to anxiety. Not being able to pay the bills is a problem. Then they find themselves on a potentially a wheel of either social security or welfare or whatever the case may be. Depression leads to needing all kinds of potentially narcotics of some description to try and help them get through days, whether it's self-medicated or prescribed through some kind of professional. And it's a deep rabbit hole that some go into, and unfortunately, some don't ever get out of. The flip side is, there are mechanics out there that get into the business, whether it's equipment, whether it's big equipment like you're working on, or automotive. They get in and they feel like there's nothing else for them, and that the feeling of overwhelmed that I'm doing this and I have to do this for the rest of my life. That I don't think there's anything else out there for me. I'm never going to be more than a mechanic, and I'm never going to make any money. And, flat rate is horrible, and this, that, and the other. And that leads to depression and anxiety and stress and overwhelm. So if there's a way for us to communicate to both of those individuals, the ones that are so overwhelmed with options that they shut down, and the one that is so overwhelmed that they feel they don't have any options, and have them talk to each other and have a conversation. It's like, hey, you do have a lot of options, or B, you have, a very few options. Like, if you happen to be someone who's great with your hands, this might be the thing for you. Let's do have a conversation, have a conversation with one another. And that's really what the show's about.
Yeah, and I also feel like there's been kind of this loss of like our fight or flight senses within, I guess, the younger generations, which, again, I think is another good point when it comes down to that. Nobody wants to work. Is I mean, that overwhelming sense of just abundant opportunity. You could either cave to it and be like, I really don't know, and just be so overwhelmed. Whereas instead, going back a couple generations, I think a big thing was it's just everybody continuously fought. There wasn't this sense of giving up wasn't an option. It was constantly, let's get this done one way or another. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna pay my bills. I'm gonna do this in one way or another. And again, that could be a bit destructive to some people because it gets so over. It's so overdone, right? Like I even see that within my parents is that they are just they've submit to, I guess I'd call it, societal norms. And like being in Alberta, a big thing is we're in the central, like the center of the oil field, right? So I come from a long line of people that worked in the oil field as well. And again, it ties back into that lifestyle of buy a brand new truck, you end up in debt, the oil field crashes, and then you can't pay your bills. And throughout my childhood, it was always, we're going to fight to get somewhere else instead of stuck in this cycle. We've got a son and my little sister, I guess. Why? How are we going to give up? That's not a possibility. And I think that's completely been lost within my generations because I see people around me that are a bit on the softer side. And I'm told quite often that, you're an old soul. You kind of need to loosen up a little bit and, just stop being a hard ass on them. And because I truly believe in hard work and like, let's get this done, right? And it's been a hard thing for me, definitely, like
Don't lose that.
trying to learn.
Don't
Yeah. And
don't lose that at all. And let me tell you, anybody that ever says lighten up, if you're coming into work every day and you're sweating your balls off and you're turning your wrenches, and you're getting your bills paid, and you're taking care of yourself, taking care of eventually completely up to you, but you get to a position where you want to have family and you're grinding, and you're taking care of your family, and you're providing a life for yourself and those around you that you want to provide. That only comes from working hard. No, I hear on a regular basis, I have work hard tattooed on my forearm for a reason. A, it's a family mantra, and B, nothing that I have come from working smart. Nothing. It all comes from working hard. Because before you can work smart, you have to work hard. You have to figure out what works by working hard so you can work smart. So nothing comes from working smart. It all comes from working hard. And there is no amount of lightening up that the world thinks, oh, he's lightening up. Let's do good things for this individual. No. No one cares out there about what you're doing. They only really care about what they're doing. Lightening up just gives them a better opportunity to take advantage of you and of the circumstance. So by you putting nose to grindstone all of the time, everything that you can handle, and you have to know your own boundaries because, I'm not saying not take care of yourself, self-care, so on and so forth, but whatever you can handle, do. And constantly push that boundary because no one else is going to push it for you. And the cool thing is, you've said it yourself that your foreman is a bit of a father figure. Your father is the only one, in theory, your father's the only one that's ever going to be happy that you beat them. Everybody else is going to be happy if you fail. So anybody that says lighten up is going to be happy that you fail, not the other way around. So never lighten up. Don't give them an inch. Don't give them a millimeter. Work your balls off. Be proud of yourself every day because you're beating yourself every day. Don't listen to them. Don't fucking listen to them.
yeah,
You've already got the makings of doing it the right way by working hard, putting in the work, getting your experience, listening to a mentor, and getting educated. You're don't listen to anybody else. You're already on the right path.
it's good to hear.
So I appreciate you very much. I appreciate him very much. Thank you for giving us the time. I really do. At this time of day, this time of evening, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, somebody somewhere your age can hear you speak to understand what it takes to put in and get work done. And I hope service leaders out there understand that there truly is. You may be a unicorn. I doubt it. I know for a fact and doubt it completely that you are a unicorn because my good friend Marshall Sheldon trains them on a regular basis. Good friend Richard Mueller trains them on a regular basis. You are not unicorns. You exist in plentiful supply. It just requires good leadership to bring it out. So I
For sure.
appreciate all that.
Yeah, and I hope I can bring a couple of them out of the wilderness, and hopefully they can get to work and kind of follow in all of our shoes. And that's all I want to see. I don't want to see this old stuff die. I don't want to see the cars die. The trucks. I think we're all here for one reason, and that's to get just fix, right? Just repair. So.
Oh no! That's the end of another episode. But there's going to be another one next week. And what another one it's going to be. I have 2 guests sitting across from me on next week's episode. And I can't wait to share it with you because I've been waiting to get these. Oh, you'll just have to watch it and listen to it and just absorb all of the goodness. And we have such a great time while doing it. We had such a great time while doing it. Folks, I really hope you're enjoying the Registrars podcast, and I hope you subscribe. And folks, like as always, we leave the Registrars podcast, our interview episodes, with a quote. Time has been lost and opportunity thrown away, but I am yet a young man and may retrieve it. Charles Dickens. Folks, remember, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.